A Shalom, Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Chakwadash, the ones and apostles, bishops, elders of great millstone, and Shalom, true brothers in the highways and byways, doing the work sincerely and faithfully, continually fighting that good fight of faith, Lord willing. We have found that number to be delivered. All right, so I'm just going to do a quick land back on the video. This brother, Tazamoth from the Dallas camp, he had put up this, a little while ago. And I just want to land back off it a little bit and make a couple points concerning this cat from the IUIC, from the ISUPK. You see, he got the little diagram on his shirt there, and I want to first say this too. He rolled up, y'all from GMS. Now, anybody who's anybody in the nation of Israel, we know who brothers are. Especially you being in Dallas, living in Dallas, and you come into the main camp of Dallas and, questioning if they're of, great millstone. Clearly this is a guy who has been brought into the fold, and now he's running around the city, with this shirt on, with his woman, and just, as a brother Tazamoth had said, he was just clueless, man. And, I couldn't really hear too much what he was saying. The volume was kind of low on my end, but, from what I was digging, this cat, they ain't got no business, man. And this goes to show you, it's about numbers, not about quality with these other camps. And this is proof that it's about numbers. All right. Now, when brothers come to the great millstone camps and they listen, they come upon us, they listening. Brothers be out there for 2-3 years sometimes, listening, coming out, listening, taking notes, showing their diligence. 2 or 3 years before they be brought into the fold. But these other guys, they're popping up in droves. There's all kinds of members everywhere. And then you get shit like this. All right? This guy was totally lost in the sauce. And he got his girl with him, and, they holding hands, and, you come to the wrong place, my man. You come to the wrong place. We ain't looking for friends and friendship. You ain't got to come by and say shalom and you just want to say shalom. We don't want to, listen, going down the road, you better off just keeping it moving. All right? So let's go from there. Let me go here. I want to go to 1 Timothy 1:5. And it says, lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partaker of other man's sins. Keep thyself pure. Now, laying on the hands of no man suddenly, right? Don't be quick to bring somebody in, And like I said earlier, here at Great Millstone, when men were coming into the camps throughout times, they was out there for a year, 2 years, learning, understanding, being fed, keeping themselves, in good standing. But these days, come on. The call's gone out. They open enrollment for membership. All right. And now men just walking around with the shirts on, proud to say who they are, but can't tell you a goddamn thing what's going on in the scriptures. All right. So again, lay hands suddenly on no man. Now I want to go to the blue letter and just get a couple examples, right? So I typed this in 1 Timothy 5:22, right? And they're giving the different translations. So first I want to go to the NLT. It says, never be in a hurry about appointing a church leader. All right. Even though he's not considered a church leader, but you appointed him to be a man that represents your congregation, but he's out there walking around aimlessly, with no clue. Right. So let me go down to let me go CSB. It says, don't be too quick to appoint anyone as an elder. All right. So this is the point. Lay hands suddenly on no man. This guy here, he should have been at a state where, not walking around with the representation of what their group was. And of course, but this is how Great Millstone do. If you come into Great Millstone, you're going to come up, you're going to listen, you're going to be attentive, you're going to be inquisitive, you know. This is the AMP. It says, do not hurry to lay hands on anyone, ordaining and approving someone for the ministry of an office in the church. All right? Because again, once you go out there and you start representing, you better come correct or don't come at all. All right? And this is what you have here. And it says, be partakers of other men's sins, meaning what? You're going to have to be responsible for how this person is conducting himself, what he's saying, how he's carrying himself. You're going to have to be responsible for that. All right? So let's continue on. This is Ecclesiastes 5:1. It says, keep thy foot when thou goest into the house of Yahweh Shai, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Right? So now, Elder Yashawamba and Elder Ariala, there was patient with the man, and it was clearly explained to him. We ain't trying to come at you all kinds of crooked and sideways, but the truth must be defended. And he said, listen, if you don't know something, just say you don't know. You want to, circle around and, I couldn't really hear what he was saying, but clearly, it had gotten to the point where the elders and the brothers was like, listen, what does it mean? What tribe was John the Baptist from? What tribe was he? He had no idea. But one thing he did know that he was, a man of ISUPK walking around. That shit ain't gonna cut it, man. Wearing the shirt, walking around, talking about, we got stuff against y'all and y'all got stuff against us. That shit ain't gonna cut it. But again, keep thy foot when thou goest into the house of Yahweh Shai, man. When you come up against the brothers or come up to the brothers, just be quiet. Just be quiet. Just keep it moving, or just be quiet. Again, we ain't in this thing at this time in that we're living in, looking for friends and trying to, hey, shalom, brother. Yeah. Nah, it don't work like that. See, these new guys, they don't understand anything. We are at spiritual warfare. All right. Shit is about to get physical out here. You got to be circumspect. You just can't be walking around this world aimlessly thinking, a title on a shirt is going to get you through. Right? Be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools. They was trying to teach the man a little something. And if he had any sense about him, he would have taken heed to what the elders was trying to tell him. But you know what happened though? He got his woman with him. Now he finds himself in a peculiar situation. All right? Because men, like that, they like the pillow talk. Yeah, I'm in this group, we doing this and we doing that. And now his girl's like, oh, my man, he's an Israelite now. So now he's found himself in a quagmire because the elders is coming up asking him some very basic questions. He's tap dancing around the whole issue, shucking and jiving. And now he's trying to save face because he don't want to look bad in front of his woman. You see? This is Proverbs 16:18. It says, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. And he had a lot of pride in him. Instead of just saying, I don't know, he wanted to be like, oh, but you know, and he said something about Mosai, Christ, Shalom Christ, or some shit he said. I couldn't hear him, but he was just absolutely, totally just oblivious to what was actually being said to him. All right. And because he had that woman with him under his arm, now he got prideful. He didn't want to hear nothing. But this is what happens when men get brought into something, quickly. When men lay hands on somebody quickly, and give them their 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 uniform, if you will, to go out in the world and walk around and represent. Proverbs 21:16 says, "The man that wandereth out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead." All right, them brothers, the elders, and them brothers over there, they was trying to give him a little enlightenment. All right, but he wanted to wander out of the way. He didn't want to hear that. You know, you just ain't gonna be walking around town talking about Shalom. Who y'all with? GMS? Nigga, you been living under a rock for the past, 20 years? Come on. Shit. He 18. I think he said he's 18 years old. And that's no excuse, man. That's no excuse. I'm a young man. I'm a young man. There are plenty of young men out there who are very versed and knowledgeable in these scriptures. So you can't use that as a crutch for your ignorance. I'm a young man. I'm a young man. The scriptures say, seek the Lord in your youth while the evil days come nigh. You know? But again, it's not about, to them, it's all about looking pretty, going around and just faking the funk, man. Right? Now, if this was a time of, close encounters, if you will, there was going to be no talking. And what I mean by that is, we ain't out there looking for friends. You got to be very careful on how you tread, because the Lord is about to start opening up a can of judgment on everything out here, man. This world is set to fall, and the things that are going on out here are set to end. The wickedness that's going on out here. We're not looking at this thing as, yeah, we're going to be here for another, 100 years. We ain't looking to be comfortable. We prophesying the downfall of this place. We hoping and praying that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai brings this thing to a speedy end, man. And that's another thing. You out there, and again, going out with your lady, ain't nothing wrong with that. But when you going out with your lady, now you going up to brothers' camps and talking all kinds of craziness. You in the wrong spirit. He definitely in the wrong spirit, because he said he went to a couple other camps before this. Whatever he was saying, But man's goings are of the Lord. Okay. Man's goings are of the Lord. How then can a man understand his own way? This may have been a crossroads for him where he'd be like, oh, I ain't ready for this. He very well may be in that, the spirit might be on him to say, I ain't ready to be a part of this thing. Okay? Ecclesiastes 10 and 14. It says, a fool also is full of words. A man cannot tell what shall be, and what shall be after him. Who can tell him? All right? And again, like I said earlier, going back to we here at Great Millstone, brothers that come out, they'll listen. They'll be out there for a couple years, before they come into the camp. Brothers that come up, you can tell a brother with his countenance, serious, quiet, listening, taking notes if they got notebooks, entering, notes on their phone, pulling out scriptures. This ain't about show and tell, man. We ain't about this, going around trying to be pretty. All right? The end of all things is at hand. The Lord said that we were going to be faced with tribulation, trials and tribulations and trouble, man. But a lot of these men, a lot of these groups and these leaders aren't teaching that, aren't telling them that. It's about numbers. It's about quantity, not quality with these other groups. and you can see it. And this is a prime example, a prime example. And then these numbers, these men who are brought into the fold, you know, on the side, it's like, yeah, we can. That's another body that we can tithe from. We can tithe that brother. He can bring money in. Every man is a dollar sign to these other groups. Every time they bring someone in, when you hear men talking about open enrollment, you know, that's something like a school setting, a college school setting, open enrollment, where you got to dish out some money in order to participate. All right, so I didn't want to go too far on that. I just wanted to hit a couple quick points, you know, and this is what you're having. This is what you're seeing with these other groups. This type of behavior, this type of attitude. All right. And the last thing them elders and them brothers said, you got to study. But that shit went in one ear and right out the other. All right. So, Lord willing, I'm going to see y'all brother another. I'm going to say shalom for now.